Hello friends, I am Sanyukta and today we are going to be learning another Zentangle original pattern. The pattern is called Dex. I already posted a tile which has the pattern Dex on my Facebook page Sanyukta Zentangle. So let us see how do we go about drawing the pattern. The pattern is also called a pattern with a coffered look. Why? Because it looks like what we have learned in the coffered tangles, like we drew in cadent, like we drew in other patterns. The coffered look looks like something like that, right? So I have drawn here a square grid, right? And then I'm going to be drawing these square boxes inside each of these grids, each of these squares that are formed by the grid, like these, right? So there are a couple of ways in which you can go about drawing this tangle. It looks like a building because it is inspired from the look of a building only. So this is the way the step outs are originally given in the newsletter, right? So I've drawn these boxes inside each, and then I'm going to join the corners to the four sides of the square, right? So the four corners to the four corners of the bigger square, like this. The inner square, the corners joined with the outer corners, like this. Right? So that is why I was saying that it looks like a coffered tangle. Why? Because what we do in a coffered look is add 4 dots to 4 corners, and then add these dots to the corners, and then join these dots with each other to get the coffered look, right? So if you don't want to draw it this way, you can also go about, drawing cross inside each of these boxes and then drawing this inner box. Why you can draw this way? Because anyhow in the original tangle the inside box has to be inked, right? So you again get the same look. All these inside boxes are to be inked. So you can pick up your broader nib pen and then just ink these boxes, right? All of them. Right? So we got to ink all of these boxes and we get the tangle pattern Dex. A small little thing that you can also do in this pattern is add some lines to 2 of the sides. Right, like this we will be inking all the boxes. In the original pattern we generally add lines to 1 and 2 sides, like this, right? Again some lines on 2 sides of the pattern, Dex, right? So what actually gives the tangle pattern its true character is again shading, right? You generally shade 2 sides, probably one side a little darker than the other one, right? Like this. So it starts to look like a window pane or a building. Right? So just to give you an idea, I'm going to add graphite to 2 of the sides. Right? Like this, and then just blend it. So this is how the pattern decks look. So you can always play with the shading, add graphite to all the 4 sides, probably 2 sides a little lighter and 2 sides a little darker, right? So it looks like a pane or a building, the windows. So that's how the pattern goes. Now how do we generally play around? Again, this space inside provides you the opportunity to play around, right? So what you can do is not color this space. Add a tangle called emingle. Add some lines inside, some thick lines and some thin lines. Right? Add some other pattern, something like banzo. So inside of a dex can be used as a reticula, and you can use any fragment you wish to, right? So again, endless possibilities to create tangulations, right? So these are some of the ways you can play around with the pattern dex. Again, the shading also gives a lot of dimension to the pattern, or if you wish, you can add some dots to the inside, something like this. I just posted a bookmark in which I used dex, right? You can have a look, something like this, right? So let us today draw a tile using the pattern dex. So in front of me is a Zentangle tile, right? And I'm going to be drawing the pattern dex. So let's draw a heart shape here. Right? So I've started off with a heart shape. I'm going to draw the pattern dex inside it. So again, drawing some grid lines. Since dex requires a square grid, as I showed to you, right? So going to draw some grid lines like these. Again, you can see here I've added a slight curve to the lines, so it doesn't really make a difference, right? So straight line or curved lines. And then what we can do is add a thin outline to our heart shape. Ideally thin one, almost kissing the first line, the second line of aura, right? And then let's draw some dragon air as a boundary. We're outlining the heart shape. We have already learned 2 variations of the pattern cadent, dragon air and angelfish. If you haven't seen or learned the pattern, you can refer to my videos. Right? So now I'm going to draw like this. Right? So let us start with our dex first. So what we can do is, you can draw it either ways. You can first add these squares inside to all the sections that we have created, right? You can manipulate the size of the square also. That also gives a different character to the pattern decks, right? Varying the size of the inner squares also varies the look of the pattern. So play around and find out for yourself how you can create a variation. I've shown you a few. I will also be posting few tiles with variations, right? So you can see here I am just adding an inner square to all the sections that I have created, and I am following the shape of the outer square, right? So kind of a geometrical pattern, but you can always give it an organic look. As I showed you, add an organic pattern inside and the look immediately changes, right? Right, so we have added, and now I'm just going to join these 4 corners of the smaller square to 4 corners of the bigger square, right? Like this. So there is no standard way to draw. You can find out a 4th way if you wish. Basically, to get the same look, different people follow different ways. Even Rick and Maria draw it differently at times. It's okay. Right, so just joining these. Take your time, keep rotating your tile, as I keep saying, so that your hands are comfortable, right? I think we done it all. Yes, now it is up to you what you want to do with the inside space, right? What we can do is, I think I will leave it right now like that. Just move on to my dragon air. Right, so again the S shape, take off and landing, right? The same technique. So what we can do here is again do something like this probably, yeah, and then right. So and then I'm going to add a little outline to my dragon air, so that if I want to draw something outside, it doesn't mess up with my heart, right? Yeah. So now let us see what we want to do with our inner spaces. So I'm going to add some bunzos inside. I think they really looked cool, right? Yeah. So let me do this exercise and get back. So you can see here how the pattern looks after I filled in all the inside squares with the pattern bunzo, right? So now for the outer, what I am going to do is add some fescues here and there, like these, right? Randomly. Right, and now I'm going to closely aura the heart and the fescues together. Right, so I'm doing nothing, just adding a layer of aura. Right, right, so that's one line of aura. The next thing that I'm going to do is add some orbs here and there, generally close to my fescues, one or two, right? Add some rounding at the turns, right? Rounding the corners, adding a few orbs here and there, just randomly adding some rounding to the corner like this, and adding a few orbs, some rounding, adding a few orbs randomly, some rounding, some rounding and orbs, right? You can see what I am doing. Wherever there is a turn or a corner, adding some ink, evening out the turn, which is called rounding, then adding an orb, right? I'm not thinking much where to add an orb and where not, just picking up randomly, right? So now that we have added one layer of orbs, now I'm going to add another layer of aura along with the orbs. right? Just repeating the aura, this time along with the orbs, right? Right, so we have added 2 layers, one more. So I am going to again find spaces where I can add some rounding, right? Turns, corners, not necessary to all. Add 1 or 2 more orbs here and there, like these, right? Again adding some ink, some rounding wherever I think. Right? So that's about it. And now the third and the final layer. So I'm going to start and do the same exercise one last time. Closely repeat the aura. So you need not move your hand, just keep rotating your tile. Right? So now let us start shading our tile. So as I showed to you, I am going to add graphite to 2 of the sides. Right? Like this. So even if you just simply ink the inside the way it is generally done in the original pattern decks, it looks very good, right? So some thick graphite at the edges. Right. like this, and then under the stems of the dragon hair just a touch. Right, and just an outer pencil aura, the last one with the pencil. Right, so let us now start blending. So just going to blend first the graphite that I have put on the inside, and then smudge the edges. Right, you can see I don't really need to do much, just if you miss some places, just use what is already there on your tortillon. We do that often, right? And then some smudging at the edges, just bringing the graphite that I have put at the edges towards the center. Right, so we have darkened the edges, and then the dragon hair, cadent angulation, right, and then just smudging, pulling out the chalk that I have put at the as the last aura, right. Right, so this is how the pattern Dex looks. We can add some white charcoal in the center, like this, right? And a layer of dot if you wish, not required otherwise. Inside the shadow. This random dots or puffs, whatever you may call. Generally used as a tangle enhancer. Right, so I'm now going to initial my tile. So heart full of Dex, sign and date it. Right, and we'll meet again and catch up with my Facebook page to see some more variations of the pattern Dex, and we'll meet again with another Zentangle original in our next session. Stay safe, have a good time, bye bye.